Hex, SCUMP, and other CDL owners are suing Activision Blizzard, as you can see here on screen, for the monopoly they hold over COD Esports. This is some insane news that just broke. As you can see, this came out at 9:18. It's currently almost 10:30 when I'm recording this. We were literally recording our podcast episode of Around the CDL, and this broke live while we were recording the show. So we talked about it a little bit on there, but I had to make this video to kind of go over this because honestly, this is some of the most insane news we've probably seen in all of esports, let alone just COD, in a very, very long time. So as you can see here, and shout out to the rotation for these tweets, Hex and SCUMP, among other CDL owner groups, are suing Activision Blizzard for holding a monopoly on COD Esports. The lawsuit alleges that Activision uses its power to prohibit growth, and the teams are seeking $680 million in damages, which is absolutely insane. We can look at these documents a little bit here. As you can see here, teams are paying a $27.5 million entry fee, which is a little bit more than we actually originally thought. But the big thing here that I took away from this first document is Activision got an unconditional 50% share of revenue that the team generated from ticket sales, sponsorships, and other revenue streams. So essentially, any money that these teams made, like, you know, OpTic, FAZE, all these teams, any money that the Call of Duty teams made, the Activision, the league, got 50% of that revenue, which is just absolutely insane. And also, this is their revenue, not even just their profits, because obviously these CDO teams are not profitable. So any dollar they brought in, Activision was getting 50 cents of it, which is just absolutely insane. And then there's also taxes on top of that. So we wonder why esports orgs are running out of money. But if we read more through this, you also cede the rights to Activision for exclusive contracts for sponsorships like energy drink companies, military-related companies, exclusive rights to broadcasters. So all these things, the teams basically forfeited their right to find these sponsorships, and Activision was the one bringing in these deals. As well as we've already known this, but the teams and players were prohibited from participating in any other leagues or tournaments other than Call of Duty Activision-specific leagues. So if you noticed any of those off-season tournaments or tournaments run by content creators, you never saw a full team playing together. That's because they literally weren't allowed to. They also prohibited the teams and players from engaging in any commercialized Call of Duty gameplay. So this says here, streaming informal friendlies on YouTube or Twitch. So the way I kind of take this is they weren't allowed to stream their scrims, which obviously they probably wouldn't want to stream scrims, right? Because they're trying to keep their VOD separate. But they weren't even allowed to if they wanted to. And basically it just says here that these rent-seeking and trade-restraining contractual provisions enrich the Activision at the expense of Call of Duty players and teams who are now under Activision's thumb. So essentially, all of these things, giving them 50% of revenue, prohibiting them from finding their own sponsors for things like energy drinks or broadcasting rights, from not being able to stream scrims. Basically, the teams were really hindered in how much money they could bring in, which, like I said earlier, esports already doesn't make any money. So as the team's already being prohibited and giving half of it to Activision, they literally were not making any money. And then it also goes into a little bit more detail about what happened with the Overwatch League. If you didn't see this, this was back in last year. They sort of had a similar lawsuit against Activision, and it ended up being that the Overwatch League was dissolved and the teams got a little bit of their investment money or some of their investment money back. So this could be sort of the route that we see the CDL go. Obviously, like the rotation says here, it's absolutely too early to say. But considering what happened with another franchise league under Activision, we could see something similar happening here to the CDL. The only major difference really is that technically they're going to be dealing with Microsoft now instead of Activision, because Microsoft now owns Activision, whereas when the Overwatch League did this, it was just Activision. This was before the Microsoft merger was official. So it could be different now that Microsoft's in charge. We could see them handle things differently. And then another major thing that came out of this, as you can see here, the lawsuit, this is the entire lawsuit document. As you can see, there's 44 pages of this. I don't have the official document. I'm just looking at what's on Twitter. That the CDL forced Hex to merge OpTic with Envy, which is absolutely insane when you think about the fact that it's possible for the CDL and for Activision to force Hex to merge with Envy. If we kind of read through this, right, it says here in 2021, after Hex reacquired 100% of the OpTic brand, Activision exercised its right to an agreement between it and the admitted teams to withhold consent of the sale of the LA franchise spot to Hex. So essentially, even though Hex bought all of OpTic back, Activision was allowed to, within its rights, hold OpTic from getting that franchise spot, or Hex from getting that franchise spot. And then it also says here that Hex proved to the league, which is something he has to do, that he had the financial means to satisfy the unpaid portion of the $27.5 million entry fee. So basically, Hex was like, look at my bank account. I got hella cash, and I can continue to pay this entry fee because they pay it in parts. So that just shows you that at least at the baseline, Hex had what was necessary to kind of buy into the league or continue buying into the league in that spot. And then it says here that Activision informed Hex that, or it says Rodriguez, I'm just going to call him Hex. Activision informed Hex that if he wanted to continue to be affiliated with the Activision Call of Duty League, he would be required to partner with a new group of billionaire investors. And then it goes on to say that basically this requirement had no pro-competitive justification and that teams that were already run by wealthy investors were now in dire financial straits as a result of this Activision conduct, which obviously makes sense. We've seen teams merge. We've seen teams cut budgets. So obviously this is already a problem. And it also says that foreseeably resulted in Hex sustaining substantial economic injuries in terms of this forced partnership. So essentially, forcing him to do this basically took away opportunities for him to make more money and not spend as much money, that sort of thing. So would definitely make sense. And it says here that Activision's refusal to deal with Hex as the sole owner of a team, instead requiring him to partner with billionaire investors, put Hex in a vulnerable position because now he had to go out and basically find new investors, find a new group to bring in onto OpTic, which is insane that they can have that sort of power over a company that's separate from Activision. And basically refusing to agree to Activision's demands would have meant that OpTic and Hex would have been completely frozen out of competitive Call of Duty altogether. So if Hex was to say, you know what, Activision, I'm not merging, I'm not getting new investors, I'm just not doing it, OpTic and Hex would literally not be allowed in Call of Duty at all. So it's just in the professional market altogether, which is literally insane that there was an opportunity, or not even an opportunity, a chance that OpTic would not have been in COD. And then it says here, and this is absolutely insane, Activision forced Hex to give billionaire investor company Envy Gaming 92.5% of the ownership share in OpTic. I personally don't understand how they can have that sort of power where OpTic, like it's not OpTic Texas, it's OpTic, has to give up 92.5% ownership to the other team. It's just totally mind-blowing to me. Hopefully some more stuff happened on the back ends with Hastro and Envy where Hex got a lot more of his shares in OpTic back and he's not just left with 6.5%, which obviously Hex deserves way more. But I mean, it's just totally mind-blowing. And then at the bottom, it basically says that they're kind of suing for $120 million because that's what they determined was kind of, you know, what he, I guess, lost out on or what they believe he's entitled to because of what happened. So of that 680 million, whatever they're suing for, 120 million of that seems to be directly correlated to this part of the whole OpTic Envy merger and being forced into it. A couple key takeaways here from Breaking Point. Hex sold majority interest to Infinite in 2017 for 20 million. Then to buy the CDL spot, he had to prove he had 3 million already, as well as the ability to obtain a $10 million line of credit. And then the lawsuit alleges that Activision, like we just said, forced Hex's hand, resulting in the Envy owning 92.5% of OpTic. I mean, this is one of those things where it just goes to show you that when big corporations are in complete control of stuff, it's just almost never going to be good, especially when it's Activision, who have a history of making pretty poor decisions, running things really bad. Look what happened to MLG. Look at what's happened to Call of Duty. I mean, as a whole, the amount of other lawsuits and sexual assault violations and things like that have happened to Activision over the years just goes to show you that this company was not run properly. And actually, a correction just came out from Charlie Intel here. It says that it's only Hex SCUMP and the Hex LLC that are suing Activision. No other CDL teams are involved in this lawsuit. So this definitely changes things because that means that if other CDL teams aren't involved in this isn't a greater CDL issue, or at least not yet. This is more of a thing with OpTic and Hex and SCUMP, who they keep putting SCUMP's name in this, so which means SCUMP is probably a co-owner of OpTic, I guess, and we just don't know. Maybe it just hasn't been officially announced at this point. But yeah, this is basically an OpTic versus CDL type thing, which, I mean, I guess it's any team you want to go head-to-head with the CDL, it's going to be OpTic, and it's going to be, you know, Hex and the green wall on the backside of that. So this is just completely insane. I figured I'd make this video, you know, late tonight just to sort of give you a rundown of what's happening if you wanted to kind of know a little bit more about this and not read all this yourself. I'm going to post more updates to this because I'm sure more stuff is going to come out. I guess before I end this video, another little thing here on this document. Basically, Activision forced the teams to agree to new terms that they would release claims against Activision in exchange for debt relief and some sum of money. And the teams that didn't do this were threatened that they could not hold tournaments. And obviously, tournaments are a good way for teams to make money. So the teams that basically didn't agree with this are not allowed to hold tournaments, which is pretty crazy. And it goes a little bit more into the fact that they laid off 60 other 72 staff members in the esports division. And just furthermore proves that Activision's monopoly on Call of Duty is basically run the entire league into the ground, which I'm sure we obviously all know, but this is just like an absolutely insane thing to break late on a Thursday night. But like I said, I'm going to keep you updated on this thing. So if you want to hear more about this, and if you like CDL in general, that's what I mainly post is competitive Call of Duty content, definitely consider hitting that sub button. And with all that being said, I hope you all have a good rest of your night or morning, whenever it is you're watching this, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next video.